Sure. Yeah. Really excited about our team and how we're growing and how we're progressing over the season. I feel like defensively right now we are just doing outstanding on that end of the floor. We are ranked number one in defense in the conference right now over the last 5 games, and I think that's really evident in our last game. Some of these defensive stands that we're having to be able to come away with these wins is just so impressive. And I think what's even more impressive about it is the versatility of our defenders, the way that we're guarding different matchups, the way that we are able to change our defenses and our players are bought in and they're all in on that end of the floor. Offensively, I mean, over the last 5 games, we're ranked number 1 in the conference in our pace of play. I think we're pushing the ball. I think we're doing a great job offensively of sharing the ball, and the way that we are shooting the ball for the majority of games has been pretty good. I think our pace of play is really reflective in the way that our guards are scoring in transition. You look at what Elise Hill is doing in our last game. You look at Delaney Crawford. You look at Crystal Eisen in the Rice game, and the way that they're able to contribute in that open floor has been huge for us.
Is the proper term discipline? Because you guys are playing with discipline on both sides, on offense and defense. How much has that helped kind of catapult you to where you're at now in the level of play?
Yeah, I love that you use that word, right? Because there's all these things that happen in games and practices where you just gotta kind of stay true to what you know to do and be disciplined in some of those smaller things. It's like all these little things that you're disciplined in are what's gonna lead to the success in that possession. I think a big word for us right now is recognition. Our recognition has grown tremendously. We're getting into defending some screening actions really early. You know, we're carrying over some of that information into the scout really well onto the court. We're recognizing moments when each other needs help, because defense is such a team area. You always have to have each other's back, and we're starting to recognize that earlier and earlier and earlier, and I think that's contributing to a lot of our success.
From the recognition standpoint, was there a moment where you could start to tell that it was clicking a little bit from what you were working scout-wise to actually applying it on the floor?
You know, it's so funny because I think that happens little by little by little, that it's really hard to recognize real time. And sometimes you don't recognize like how good you are at it until there's a possession where you weren't good at it. And then you have these memories of, we've grown so far, because we used to have these gaps where we would do that 2 and 3 possessions in a row. And now we have a team where we're doing that 1 every 4 or 5 possessions with it.
An incredible start. How much does it help to get a start like that in the first quarter?
Oh, for sure helps. You know, we absolutely love the way that we were able to start that game. Even when we look back against our upcoming opponent in Charlotte and the way that we started against Charlotte the last time that we played them, those starts are so critically important. And you look at how much Elise Hill helped us in that start, and her ability to shoot the ball and her ability to push tempo. She's done a great job and been a big part of those starts for us right away. I'm telling you, I really love our pace of play. I love the way that we're sharing the ball. Do I wish all of our shots would go in? Absolutely. I wish that we could be a walking highlight reel. But even when they don't, I love the confidence that our team is having to get each other the ball and take those next shots.
Your increased defensive efficiency, is that because of increased intensity, or people understanding the system, or is it brilliant coaching strategy on your part?
You know, I do not think I can take any credit for all of those things. It's definitely all the credit goes to the players, right, and the effort that they're putting in. I think it's different each game. You know, there's some games where the intensity is the strategy that we need to have to be able to either speed teams up or put them in some uncomfortable positions. But then when I talked about the versatility of us defensively, there's some games where we need to protect the paint a little bit more. And if we were to try to speed up those teams, we would be vulnerable in so many other areas. So I think it's the versatility of our defense that's really key to be able to do that from game to game to game to game.
And you switch up defenses depending on the situation. So when you run 2 or 3 different defenses, is it harder for new players to kind of get it, so to speak? Does it take a little while to kind of get that whole thing melded?
Yeah, for sure it does. And we're still growing in a lot of those areas. You know, we like where our defense is right now, but we do have some areas where we know that we need to improve in and continue to grow in those. We have great veteran leadership, you know, within our team that kind of helps some of those newcomers along the way. And one thing that I really love about our newcomers is they're going to go a million miles an hour no matter what. And that's one thing that you have to have. You have to have that hunger and that fire. You have to have the ability to make a mistake and turn around and move forward and be in that next moment and be in that next play. And I really like that's what we're doing.
Coach, you've won 4 at home now, but the road's been a little bit different for your team. What do you think your team needs to do to kind of start stringing together some of those road wins?
Yeah, well, for sure. We've got to grow in our road warrior mindset a little bit. But some of those teams that we faced on the road have been some of the top teams in the league. And some of those are 2-point games. Some of those are 6-point games. Some of those are 7-point games, or games where we are right there in those moments. So I don't think you walk away from that necessarily evaluating, okay, how do we change things that we do on the road? We've got to be more focused. And we've got to, on the road, be able to play through 4 quarters. I think that was evident in our last road trip that we had. We had 3 really good quarters, and then we had one that wasn't as good as it needed to be able to close out that game. And I think that is a growth area for our team. But I am excited for these road challenges coming up. They're going to be tough road challenges, but I'm excited for us to be able to do that.
Looking at Charlotte, you guys get the 6-point win the first time around, and they were maybe a little bit struggling when you look at the record at that point. They have won 2 of their last 3. What looks different about this team from the first time you played them?
Yeah, well, for sure, Charlotte continues to improve, just like a lot of teams in our league continue to grow and become a better team. This year, they have a new coach. They had some new players, and so just like every team, you're beginning to gel together and grow differently at different rates. I think Charlotte is a very dangerous team. I think they're a very good team, and I think they do what they do really well. Some of the things that they do really well is they have great interior play. So they look for post feeds. They look for being able to go high-low a little bit, and then they put their guards in a ton of on-ball screening action. So those are 2 actions right now that we know we've got to be really good at defending.
How would you evaluate the progress that Elise Hill's made from last year to this year?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of Elisa's story all the way from day one. I absolutely love her confidence, and when she steps on the floor, she relies a lot on her preparation to be able to take some of those big shots and those big moments. I think you've seen Elise this year transition to a more physical game. She's stronger. She's able to finish really well around the rim against some tougher opponents. You see her ability to create off the dribble a little bit more in some of these open spaces that our spacing of our offense just naturally produces for her. And then you see her range. Her range continues to get deeper and deeper and deeper, almost like the end of that quarter. I'm telling you, she can do it. But you just see everything that she's really good at continue to master some of those skills and then add new ones.
Philosophically speaking, how do you recruit locally and in-state, and what do you look for, and what does a local player have to do to get your attention?
Yeah, well, for sure, we want to recruit right here in our footprint, and work from here and then work out. Being able to build a team and find what you need is really important as you build all those different components. And if we can find that right here, in our hometown, in our home state, it's certainly where we want to start. I don't know if you're alluding to the recruitment of Elise, but from the first time I saw Elise, it was a no-brainer for us. Let's absolutely try to get her to be a part of our team. We went through the recruiting process with her. It was such an alignment, not just from a skill set standpoint, but from a culture standpoint, that we were so excited when she decided to commit. She's not the only Oklahoma player on our roster. I think the state of Oklahoma has really good girls basketball at every position that you can see, and I think it continues to get stronger and stronger and stronger. You see our roster that we've pulled from some different regions around Oklahoma as well, and then we've gone a little bit further out to get some pieces that we know that we needed. One thing that's really important to us in our recruiting is that we don't just look at the skill set, right? We look at their competitive excellence. We look at their leadership skills. We look at it as it align with our culture and the things that our program stands for, because that's the most important. And we always get really excited whenever there's a player that fits that.
In this era of college basketball, what do you feel like are the most important things for roster building and retention?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing I love our style of play, that we have such great versatility and we recruit versatile players. So I think that lends itself to be able to have many spaces filled in different ways all the way across. I think that you've got to maintain a positive program and a positive culture, and I think that we're doing that here at the University of Tulsa. And I think players have to have a good experience, and part of that experience is learning how to grow through that journey together. I think our team is really connected. I think they're a very close team, and I think that's part of what's cultivated within our culture of love, trust, and work here.
Last week when Justin Moore visited with the media, one of the things that we talked about was the resources that have been devoted to football, and then there's the discussion that the school wants to support athletics at a top of the AAC level and compete at a top of the AAC level. from your perspective for women's basketball, what are the resources that are necessary to compete at the top of the American?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so grateful with the University of Tulsa and the resources that they're already currently pouring into women's basketball. I think when you look at the future and you look at that next step, there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of discussions and there's still a lot of things and final pieces that still have to be in place. But I'm really excited in our discussions of how we move that forward here.
How often, who do you talk to in the administration, and how often do you have those discussions?
Well, I think you're having those discussions with your administration constantly and consistently. You know, you're on these different calls and in some different meetings where there's lots of different things within the NCAA and the WBCA that are being discussed right now. And I feel very comfortable having those conversations with anyone in our administration just on a day-to-day basis.
How different are the resources necessary to compete at women's basketball than men's basketball or football or softball or any other sport?
Yeah, well, I think at the end of the day, you want to create levels of support for your student athletes in every area. You want to create levels of support academically. You want to be able to provide levels of support athletically for them to be able to peak perform and improve and grow. And then you want to provide every level of support that you're able to so that they can have personal growth as well. And I think there's a lot of great vision here at the university to be able to do that across all sports.
Coach, and she doesn't really care about this because it's about next game, next practice, next shot. But Delaney Crawford is going to be, when it's all said and done, one of the all-time list players on several different fronts for the program. And again, an Oklahoma kid from Piedmont. What has she meant to the program?
That's really hard to summarize in just a couple sentences. And I knew when you first started asking that question, I knew that was going to be exactly who you asked about, because Delaney she's incredibly focused on what is that next task at hand for our team and how do we create that success for everybody. First of all, we're so appreciative of Delaney and all of her efforts and everything that she has given and is giving to the University of Tulsa. I think we see her ability on the floor. We've seen her grow into such a tremendous player that has impacted the game in so many different ways. And then you see also somebody who is a great leader to others, who has a kind and a caring heart and is a great leader. And then you see someone who also affects other young girls that are in the community and is a great role model for them. And so when you look at Delaney Crawford, it's not just basketball. It's about so much more than basketball with her and her impact that she's had here at the university and in the community.
I think if I remember correctly, I think Hadley's had like a 17 rebound game this month, 15. She had 10 the other day. Outside of just size at 6'2", what makes her a good rebounder?
Yeah, well, she's tenacious, first of all. Like, she is absolutely in pursuit of that ball every time a shot goes up. I think Hadley does her work early, and she works really, really hard, and I think that's what allows her to be able to be in great positions to get some of those rebounds. And then there's a little bit of luck involved, you know. There's a little bit of luck whenever you do the work and you do everything the right way. The ball's going to go off the rim, and what I love about Hadley is even if it doesn't go directly to her, she goes and she rebounds out of area so well.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.